Hey now.
Oh yeah, look at my life out here on the road. Oh yeah, look at my life. Hey now, yeah. Oh yeah, look at my life out here on the road.
Hey now!
Hey now.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Scott Fox After 9. Today is a Listener DM Friday. I'm going to bring in Anna Almeida. We're going to get to the DMs, and we're going to do that in the second half of this episode. Before we get to that, though, a number of things I want to touch on. First and foremost, today is an important day, a historic day. A summit being held in Anchorage, Alaska, between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. The goal of this is to make peace. The goal of this is to stop people from being killed. And I know that there's a lot of folks listening to this podcast that do not like Donald Trump and they do not like Vladimir Putin. Feel however you want to feel, but I know there's strong feelings out there about these two guys. We got to get behind them. We've got to hope for peace here. We've got to hope that Putin will reach some sort of a deal with Trump. And then when Trump goes back to Zelensky there in Ukraine, he'll find it acceptable. And then Trump can bring the two of them together and sign a peace accord. We have to stop the killing. Whatever comes after this, I don't know. Is it going to involve Ukraine giving up territory? I don't know. Is there going to be peacekeepers in Ukraine? I don't know. Job one is to stop the killing. And if today's meeting can help produce that, I think we've got to get behind the presidents and hope that they can get something done. Again, I know a lot of people don't like either of these guys, but we got to hope for peace, and I am behind both of them on this particular initiative. I'm also thinking about everybody that's traveling this weekend. 130,000 passengers a day fly Air Canada, and it looks like by the end of the day today, all Air Canada operations are going to cease to operate because the flight attendants are going to go on strike. I don't understand how a deal couldn't get done here. I don't want to see 130,000 people every day get stranded. Flights are booked. People are ready to go. They've got plans. They've taken time off work. They've arranged babysitting and house sitters. They've got business to do. There's all kinds of different reasons that this strike is not good, and I cannot believe that they were not able to figure this out. I'm not quite sure why Air Canada has taken this stance, considering I think if I'm reading the room right, and I'm usually pretty good at this, I think the public is generally behind the union in this case, and that doesn't always happen. But when people hear flight attendants are doing work that they're not being paid for, people are going to get behind them because nobody wants anybody to work for free. Got to figure this out. And frankly, I think the pressure is on Air Canada right now. If someone has a flight booked and they find out they're not going, I think Air Canada is going to wear that, not the union. I don't think people are going to blame the flight attendants for standing up for themselves and saying we want to be paid for the work that we do. Air Canada, you just got to figure out the dollars and cents and make it work. Figure it out. This is a multi-million-dollar company, probably billions of dollars in assets in those planes. Figure it out. You got to pay your staff. Nobody works for free. They don't. Full stop. Figure it out. Make the math work. We want to see a resolution. The other thing that's on my radar is an announcement that came down in Ontario yesterday that the province is going to require all public servants to be back in the office 5 days a week. Back in the office 5 days a week. So before I get to the listener DMs, I want to take a few minutes and play a little bit of Premier Doug Ford's news conference yesterday, where he announced this and talked about a number of other issues. Here is Premier Doug Ford.
Folks, I want to first acknowledge this morning's announcement that the Ontario Public Service will be returning to office full-time in the coming months. And I want to thank our incredible public servants for the work they do for the people of Ontario every single day. Ontario's public service is the best in the entire country. They've been effective and professional, helping Ontario face down major challenges, including the challenge we now face from south of the border.
I'm going to cut the premier off before he goes into another Donald Trump rant. Doug just said they're professional. He wants to thank them for the great work that they've done. He praised the public servants. But then at the same time, he ordered them back to work. And in a few minutes, I'm going to play some of the Q&A where he goes a little bit further on why specifically he's ordering them back to work. When it comes to this topic, I know that there's a couple schools of thought. There's some people who feel, hey, you're getting paid out of my tax dollars. You better damn well get to the office and do your job. I want to see you in the office doing your job. Then there's others who feel, if you can do it remotely, why wouldn't you do it remotely? What's the issue here? The premier, again, is going to weigh in on that in just a few minutes. I have a couple of thoughts. Number one, I'd like to know how wide-ranging this is and how many people are working from home. What public servant positions can be done from home? I know there's a lot of folks in, let's pick an industry, education. There's a lot of folks in education that are working from home. Educational consultants, curriculum consultants, all these type of folks that work from home. And I'm not sure why, because every school board has an office. I guess at some point, somebody determined that it could be done from home, so why not let them? And while I still do generally agree with that sentiment, if we're sending public servants back, is it just people who work directly for the government of Ontario, or will it be people within the Ministry of Education? Will it be right down to the school board level? Will it be, I don't know, people at the Ministry of Health, non-professional doctors and nurses and stuff? I mean, the bureaucrats, are they working from home, and will they have to go back to work 5 days a week? What about the politicians? What about the members of provincial parliament? I realize they don't have a traditional job, but are we expecting them to be in the office 5 days a week when the legislature is not sitting? Because frankly, I don't think I've seen anybody go in or out of my MPP's local office in months. Looks like the place is closed down. Will the members of provincial parliament have to go back to the office 5 days a week, either report to Queen's Park or report to your constituency office? Because I have a feeling this doesn't apply to them. I'd just like a little more information. I'd like to know who exactly is being ordered back and why. And what is this going to do to our roads? You know, apparently there's 60,000 employees that are going to be on the roads 5 days a week. And our roads are already in complete gridlock. Can we handle that volume of people going back to the office 5 days a week? I don't know that we can. I don't know that it's necessary. But I'm open to hearing the argument. So let's hear a little bit more of Premier Doug Ford yesterday.
We're also putting more money back into people's pockets by eliminating costly tolls on highways 412, 418, and 407 East. Now, I've had a conversation with Minister Bethlenfalvy. I think we've been getting a few calls since we opened up the highway, no tolls. It's getting pretty busy. So we'll come up with a strong plan to make sure we keep people moving. But the most important thing, people that use it all the time are putting thousands of dollars a year back in their pockets.
And it does absolutely nothing for folks west of Durham region, including Toronto itself. The 407 topic is one that I'm particularly passionate about because I happen to agree that it should have never been sold off in the first place. But I also think that it's time to take it back. And whether they want to sell it back to us or not, we'll just annex it and send them a check and they can sue us for the difference. Either way, we already know roughly how much it's going to cost us to get it back. And I think we need to do that. A lot of people have messaged me since I've been talking about making the 407, that is the express toll route that runs from Burlington all the way out to almost the Kawarthas, free. Right now it's a toll route. The province made part of it free, the part that the provincial authorities own. The part that's still privately owned, you still have to pay tolls, and the tolls are out of control. Completely ridiculous amounts of money that they're charging to use this highway. Several people have now told me, I don't think it's a good solution, Scott. If you make the 407 free, it's going to end up just like the free part now, where it's getting very congested. And the premier is right. If he's getting calls about it, I'm also hearing from people that say the free portion is quite busy. Let's keep it in perspective and think about this. Right now, the vast majority of cars are on the 401 because it's free and because people cannot afford the tolls that we're being charged to use the 407. But then there's that part of the 407 that is free, and that's jamming up. And people are thinking, if we make the whole thing free, the whole thing will look like that. No, this is really just a matter of volume. If the 407 was free, cars would move, some of them would move from the 401 up to the 407. There's also some folks who would move from the 407 down to the 401 because it's actually closer to where they have to go, and because there will be less volume on the 401, it'll actually be drivable. We've got 5 lanes in each direction that are completely underutilized, while people just less than 10 kilometers south of there sit in gridlock on the 401. I don't understand how anyone in a decision-making capacity like the province can sit there and let that happen. Buy back the 407. And if they don't want to sell it, annex it. We need to do something. There's volume available on the 407. It's not available on the 401. Once the whole thing is free and there's a lot more space to move around, people can take it for the exits that they need to take it from and not need to congest in just the free parts. That's going to open up capacity and free up space on the 407, on the 401, and on the alternative routes. We got to do this. We have to get back the 407. That's got to be the first expenditure that we do. And then after that, we can start saving our money again and build this tunnel under the 401 or build the 413 or any of the other little pet projects that the province has been musing about for a long time. Let's hear a little bit more of Premier Ford. I want to get to the Q&A that he did with reporters.
Morning, Lane Harrison, CBC News. I'm curious, Premier, when it comes to the public servants going back to work, there's been a lot of debate in society about this topic. Where do you stand? Do you think that people are going to be more productive if they're back to work, or do you think that some people, it's true that they're more productive at home?
Well, I believe everyone's more productive when they're at work. And how do you mentor someone over a phone? You can't. You got to look at them eye to eye, over the water cooler, wherever, train them, camaraderie. Plus the economy, too. I'll just use downtown Toronto, for example. The path. You know, there's hard-working entrepreneurs that their businesses basically just died when, when they weren't seeing the flow of traffic. But I understand all the companies I've talked to, from the banks to the insurance companies to everyone else, everyone needs to go back to work. Half the public service is already at work 5 days a week, and I want to thank them. And I just look forward to having everyone back to work.
That's not really an answer, though, Doug. Let's talk about what he just said. He said that you can only really be productive at work. You know, if you need mentoring or something like that, it needs to be done in person. And maybe that's his particular style, but by and large, I think other managers have figured it out. Now, let's also go back a little bit further and ask, why are there so many people working from home? The guy you just heard from, Doug Ford, lockdown king. During COVID, he's the one who shut them all down and sent them home to work. Until now, it doesn't seem to have been a priority to get them back to work. Why now? And I note, by the way, that since the Premier has made this announcement, other municipalities, such as Brampton, have announced they too are going to be requiring people to go back to the office 5 days a week. I feel like we're going in the wrong direction, and that's fine. I mean, hey, Ford's the boss. In Brampton, Patrick Brown's the boss. The bosses can make boss decisions. That's good. Fine. Go ahead and do it. But let's do it for the right reasons. Are they really not productive at home? Are we not getting good value as taxpayers because they're not at home? Because I do remember a time when we talked about this might be the new norm. Work from home might be a new thing. People can sell off some of their real estate. They can reduce their footprint. It'll be less people commuting. These were all reasons that they told us it was good that people work from home. Again, I don't hate the idea of making them go back 5 days a week, and I know there's some taxpayers out there listening to this pod that agree wholeheartedly with the Premier and the mayors that are doing it. Make people go back 5 days a week. There's also people who just want them back 5 days a week because they have to work 5 days a week. Feel however you want to feel. I just feel like it's the timing is questionable. And coming from Doug Ford, the guy who sent them home to work in the first place, I'm not quite sure how he ended up back at this place. Strange. But let's hear more of the Q&A.
And just on the topic of why now, is the big bank sending people back to work and Rogers sending people back to work, did that factor into your government's decision on why to do this now?
No, I think it's just time. Everyone's kind of saying it's time to get back to work. It's simple as that. So we look forward to having everyone back. I'm very grateful for the work they do. We have best public service in Canada, and I appreciate the work they do every day.
Another thing I want to touch on quickly here is Premier Ford pointed out we got to get people back to work because there's businesses that are going out of business. One's in the path downtown Toronto. Yeah, when there's people working from home, they're not necessarily out supporting businesses. But that's part of the appeal of working from home is that you can save money. You aren't constantly burning gas and sitting in gridlock and having to go out and buy those quick serve lunches and things like that. Does Doug just want people to go back so that businesses don't go under? The ones that had opened up on the premise that people would be coming in for lunch? I really don't know. Doug did again double down there and say we've got the best public service in the world. Well, if they're the best public service in the world right now, then why change it? It seems strange to me. I'm not quite sure why this is happening now or what the reasoning is. He didn't say it's because the banks are making people go back, but I think all we're doing is just adding to rush hour at this point.
Hi, Premier. Jessica from the Trillium here. I'm hoping to follow up on yesterday's announcement concerning the Protecting Ontario account. What do you see as how to spend the remaining $4 billion in that account? Is this something you could use to support specific important projects or companies or establishing more funds? What do you think it should be spent on?
Yeah, I'll say a few comments and I'm going to pass it over to my Minister of Finance. You know, I get messages every single day. I go out there. Companies are hurting, especially the ones that rely on our trade deal going back and forth across the border. Those who aren't covered in the CUSMA or USMCA deal, they're getting hit, especially the auto sector, the steel sector, they're getting hit, but we're going to be there to support them. Our goal is to onshore every possible product we can until they don't have to face the tariffs, and it will create more jobs. So that's what we're working on with the Minister of Economic Development and Trade, and every single person's job, as far as I'm concerned, is to find products and onshore them. What really bothers me lately, and I got to have a chat with all the retailers, the big five. I've heard many stories that you're outsourcing out of our country when there's great manufacturers here. I heard a story yesterday that you're going to Thailand, you're going to China, pulling business away from Ontario workers. If I have to put a Canadian flag and every other flag on every single product and legislate it until the consumer can see that you aren't pulling the wool over their eyes, because that's what they're doing, and I still have to get a can of Campbell soup that's putting that Canadian flag on, that's not being manufactured here, misleading the people, and getting it produced in Camden, New Jersey, the can, the label, the stuff inside, and do you know what they put? Recipe of Canada. Do you think the people of Ontario are that dumb? Like, I'm gonna call you out and get one of those cans. I'm gonna rip that label off and encourage people to buy made in Ontario, made in Canada soup. And maybe what you should do is bring back your manufacturing facility that you closed down in Etobicoke and got rid of hundreds of people. But I just can't stand sneaky companies that do stuff like that. So, I'm sorry. Over to you, Peter.
No, I don't even want to hear from Peter right now, although he is great. I like him a lot. Jesus. Okay, listen. Premier Ford is calling out the exploitation there. There's some companies like Campbell's there who will say it's a Canadian product, but it's technically just a recipe of Canada. The actual manufacturing gets done down in New Jersey. They had a facility in Etobicoke, which is Doug's riding there, and they moved it. And I get that Doug wants them to move their manufacturing back, but it's not going to happen. It's not. Doug, we do not have the conditions in Canada right now. And this is using your own words from just 2 days ago when you were in Windsor. The taxes are too high. Interest rates are too high. There is a lot of barriers to doing this kind of production here in Canada. They are. And if people are outsourcing products or parts and supplies from Thailand and Indonesia or whatever other countries he said there, again, they're doing it because it's cheaper. We need to lower the cost in Canada. I'm led to believe that next week, Doug is going to go and meet with his friend Mark Carney there in Ottawa and ask him to lower taxes and pressure the Bank of Canada to lower interest rates. Hey, if that actually works, God bless you. That's going to be great. Because nothing is going to change while these conditions remain the same. I asked the question the other day, if you had money and you were ready to invest, would you open up a facility here in Ontario? Or would you open up a facility in America? Where would you put your money? What's your bet? Because it is a bet. It's a risk when you invest in a company. If you're going to open up a business you want to give yourself the best shot at success. Here, we got high taxes, we got high interest rates, we got high real estate costs. We have an expensive workforce. We have some of the best paid people in the world here, but they're also some of the best educated. So maybe there's a trade-off there. Maybe you don't care for the particular business that you're opening up. But there's a lot of downside to it, and that's just reality. Now, we could change that. Part of Canada Strong has got to be making us more competitive. If Doug's going to take that on as a priority or a task or a challenge, God bless him for doing that. I'm just not optimistic that this prime minister is actually all that interested in creating the business conditions where people do want to invest. Right now, people are staring down the barrel of tariffs. We may even lose the USMCA, and that would probably be our fault. Before I get to listener DMs, I'm going to bring in the U.S. ambassador to Canada in just a sec. You can hear him say it. There's a lot of barriers that are getting in the way from attracting investment to Ontario and to Canada in general. And a lot of it has to do with money. In the States, labor is cheaper. There are not nearly as many statutory obligations in the deductions and such that come off of our checks that employers are responsible for down there. The taxes are lower. The interest rates are lower. There's more customers that have more money in their pocket. Real estate is cheaper. That is part of the reason that labor is cheaper. There's a whole lot of reasons that somebody might choose to open up a business in the States or relocate their Canadian business to the States. It's Doug Ford and Mark Carney's job to create the conditions where they want to be here. And that doesn't mean bailouts. It doesn't mean corporate handouts. It means low taxes, less red tape, lower interest rates, and more promise, more prosperity. I don't see it happening here. We've got a trade war going on with America right now, and I'm still speculating here that we want that. Doug Ford and Mark Carney do not have to talk about all of the other problems that have happened on their watch as long as they're talking about Donald Trump. As long as the public is angry at Donald Trump, Doug Ford doesn't have to fix the mess in our hospitals. He doesn't have to fix our healthcare crisis. He doesn't have to worry about any of the issues that are bothering people because they're just mad at Donald Trump and happy they're not American. There's got to be more to it than that. We've really got a lot of work to do. We got to build pipelines. We've got to remove all of the legislation that prevents us from getting our product to market. And then we need to make ourselves more competitive. Lower taxes, lower interest rates, all these conservative fundamentals need to be done at this time in our history. They have to be done. I just don't know that they're going to get done. Speaking of the trade war with America, yesterday, the U.S. ambassador to Canada did another interview. This was with Mackenzie Gray, and he had some interesting things to say. This is about a minute and a half long, but please listen with an open mind and very carefully to the U.S. ambassador to Canada.
The vast majority of your business community that has business relationships with the U.S., they've been relatively quiet. And your media, okay, I mean, their prime sport, okay, is beating up Donald Trump every day. So no, I'm not surprised by those numbers.
Not surprised?
No, I'm a politician, okay? If I were in a riding, and everybody in that riding, was trashing a candidate. They had no support from any political party. They had no support from their business community. The media was piling on. It's kind of like, wow, 15%, Mr. President, that's not bad. But the important thing here is not the popularity of the president, is the president delivering on the promises that he made to the American people for increasing prosperity in America, making their communities safer and more secure. That is what's driving this president, the promises that he made to the American people and implementing the policies that he believed will deliver those results.
So the question was on Donald Trump's lack of popularity in Canada. You just heard the ambassador say it. Our media has made a sport out of slamming Donald Trump at every opportunity they get. Well, that's not going to help us reach a deal with the Americans. It's simply not. But another point to keep in mind here is it's gaslighting Canadians. If you aren't quite sure what tariffs are or how to feel about them, and you haven't really experienced any impact in your own personal life, but every time you turn on the news, you hear our politicians and our media slam Donald Trump, no wonder so many people have said, oh, yeah, Donald Trump, he's terrible. He's the worst. Bah. And I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying that we've got this really organized effort to control the message. And the message is Donald Trump bad. They're the bad guys. We're the good guys. Well, the ambassador has also, again, pointed out that Canada is the one who seems to be sabotaging any chance of a deal. The U.S. has got tariffs on anything that is not USMCA compliant. USMCA is the three-way deal between Canada, the USA, and Mexico. Apparently, Canada is tariffing things that are part of the USMCA, and that's not supposed to happen.
But Canada has decided that, that's fair game. We will, call into question CUSMA. Canada is the country that has pulled the rug out from USMCA. So for, a premier to say, well, the U.S. could pull it out at any minute, the response is, no, Canada pulled out the rug from USMCA.
And what he's talking about there is orange juice, appliances, motorcycles. Those are things that are covered under the USMCA that we're tariffing to prove a point. We banned all the American alcohol. We do nothing but crap all over Donald Trump on the news, and our politicians are having a field day doing it. It's good for them politically, but it's not really getting us any closer to a solution. I really hope cooler heads prevail. I really want to see a deal done. I really believe that combined, we could be a superpower. With our resources here in Canada and the U.S.'s infrastructure and ability to sell. With the amount of investment that they're attracting to their country, some of that could be coming here if we were aligned. And right now, it seems like if we're making companies choose them or us, I don't know why they would choose us when the cost of doing business is so high here. I'm going to leave it at that. And next week, I will be weighing in on Trump and Putin, their summit. I'm going to be talking about whatever the latest developments are in the Air Canada strike. And I will have the latest on this mess right here. This negotiation between Canada and the U.S. Still no deal. Monday, by the way, is also by-election day in Alberta. Pierre Poilievre should have a seat back in the House of Commons as of Monday. This weekend on social media, you are going to see a lot of liberals trying to convince conservatives not to support Pierre. They don't like Pierre Poilievre. Liberals do not like Pierre Poilievre. Pierre Poilievre is the reason we don't have a carbon tax anymore, and he's the one who brought down Justin Trudeau. He was their hero, Trudeau, and Pierre was the one who took him down. So they do not like Pierre Poilievre. They know how effective he is, and they don't want him to lead the Conservative Party because that's not good for liberals. And by the way, before I get to listener DMs, I do want to do a correction, and I want to thank the person who messaged me to point this out. This week, I've been talking about speed cameras, and I said when we vote in the fall in our municipal elections, don't support any incumbent mayor that has allowed those cameras in their city. It's 2026, the municipal elections, not 2025. Got to wait another year. That doesn't mean, though, you can't hold these mayors to account. The mayor will meet with you. If you phone the mayor's office, you're a constituent, they'll meet with you. In most cases, if they have any spine at all, they will meet with their constituents. You've got to start voicing to our politicians that we do not want these cameras. We won't accept these cameras. And if these cameras are still here come next year when we vote, they will not be returning to office. Okay, it's time for listener DMs. And to do this, as always, I'm going to bring in the great Anna Almeida. Hey, Anna, how you doing?
Hey, happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. Hey, before we get into the DMs, can I just get a quick opinion from you on a couple of things?
Please, yeah.
Trump and Putin. The left is going nuts that Trump and Putin might actually achieve peace. It's almost like they don't want peace because they don't want Donald Trump to get a win here. What do you think? Is peace the goal, or is it just keep labeling Trump as a POS?
Honestly, he is a POS, and so is Putin. But if they can have a resolution and peace is made, I am happy. I don't care who does it. The lives of people matter more to me than, my hatred for them.
Got it. Hey, well said. What do you think of Doug Ford ordering the public servants back to the office 5 days a week?
Honestly, I think he's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Like, I think he's losing it, to be honest. And isn't it contradictory? Like, if they've been doing a good job, like he claims, why bring them back? Why, kind of stir up something that doesn't need to be stirred? I think, in my opinion, if it's been working, don't break it.
Jays and Texas Rangers. Is this one the Jays can win? What do you think? I'm 50-50 on this.
Listen, I know baseball, and I think that they can win.
Good. I'm not sure if that means you know baseball, though. Oh.
I know they're doing great, and that's all that matters. And I think we're going to come out in first and go into the playoffs and crush it.
All right. I love that spirit. Okay, Listener DMs is a segment that I started when I launched this podcast back in January. This is where, on Fridays, I read your DMs. You can ask me whatever you want, and I will try and answer. You can ask a question. You can make a comment. You can call me out. If you don't like something I've said, this is the place where you can air that. I would like to hear your feedback on Fridays for Listener DMs. Let's go.
Okay, Scott, I just want to warn you now. There's going to be some heavy ones, so I'm interested to hear what you got to say, too.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, no, good, though. It's good. So
good heavy. All right.
Yeah, it's an interesting take. So first, we're going to start off with Jordan. He writes, "Hey, Scott, I was recently affected by the layoffs in the education sector. I know you often talk about kids living in America and the benefits of a stable country. When I was laid off, I received a lump sum that has freed me from debt and allowed me to save. Now I'm trying to figure out my next steps. I've applied to over 300 jobs in Ontario without much luck. The idea of moving out west in Canada is appealing. I've also been considering the U.S., specifically Florida or Texas. I've been surprised by how many Canadians have joined Facebook groups expressing the same desire for stability in Western Canada or in the United States. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the best options as well as your comments on the increase of Canadians trying to get out of here."
Yeah. Oh, boy, that's a scary one, isn't it? We talk all about, we're elbows up. We're going to fight and counter tariff and dollar for dollar and blah. We're going to be our own best customer. All these cliches, right? It doesn't really matter if Canada's best and brightest are leaving, and a lot of them want to. And I know that that's a weird thing for some people to hear and wrap their mind around. They're probably thinking, what? People aren't leaving. No, they are. In fact, they talk about that now. They're talking about the number of reduced day trips, people going from Canada to the U.S. Those are just the people that came back. I'd like to know the total number of people that left. There's a lot of them that are making a break for the border because America right now offers stability and it offers prosperity. There's a lot of reason to think life is looking good in America real soon. They're not going to be paying income tax because of the tariff revenue. They've already taken the tax off of tips and a whole bunch of other things. The U.S. is encouraging immigration. They just want it done legally. And I have to think that as Canadians, we're good candidates to come in and fill some of the positions that they need filled. So there's a lot of people that are looking into that. There's also some that are looking out west, namely because of the cost of living being a little bit better. And there's also indications that moving to the western part of Canada might offer the similar prosperity that America offers because it's oil country. And it looks like a lot of the green regulations that had stifled Alberta's economy and Saskatchewan's economy and so on and so forth are going to be coming off. Seems that way anyway. I'm thinking, though, that it's kind of a lateral move. You can move west, but there's some reason to believe that the West might be the U.S. anyway. Yeah. Not that long from now. Next week, there's going to be a ballot question put in front of the Alberta courts on separation.
Ooh.
I don't know where that's going to go, and I really don't want to see Canada break up. I really, really don't. And if you're asking my honest opinion, I don't think it will. I don't think Alberta, Saskatchewan, BC, and maybe Manitoba are going to break and go join America. I don't think it's going to happen. However, anything could happen. If you're looking for information on how to move to the States, the best advice I can give you is start off by applying for a job there. If you get a job offer, you can take that to the U.S. border and say, I've got a bona fide job offer here. They'll do a little looking into it. They might even call the company that made you the offer. If it's legit, In a lot of cases, they're going to let you in. You get your visa, you get your social security number, you're then paying American taxes and working for an American business. You can set up an American bank account and all of those things. It's really not that hard to move. I just went through this process with my son a few months ago, and I was actually surprised at how easy it was. But it is concerning the number of people that want out of here, Anna. The amount of people that are making a run for the border and taking their skills with them. These are potential taxpayers that could have been contributing to society here, but they've had enough, or they just can't find a job. And the job is job one. If we don't have employment here, people are going to leave. And don't be surprised that there's so many Canadians that are looking into moving to America.
300 jobs he applied for and nothing.
I went through something similar, though. I lost my job back in December. And I applied for a lot of different jobs that are not necessarily in this industry, the podcast or broadcast industry. I got a pretty good resume. I'm well qualified in a lot of areas. Couldn't even get a call back.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So it's not a good job market. America does have some things to offer. It's not for everybody. Not everybody is going to like moving down there. They've got weird laws about guns and open carry and stuff that a lot of Canadians aren't used to. They have a very different healthcare system down there where you need to buy health insurance. But once you get used to it, once you've looked into it and navigated the process, I think some people would be happy there. Yeah. And my kid's loving it, I'll tell you. And I love that he's down there. I don't want to sound like I'm not being patriotic, but he's thriving. He's got a nice place in a major city, nice condo right downtown. It's affordable. He's got spending money. He can save some money. He's really thriving. Wow. I don't want to encourage people to leave, but look into it.
Yeah,
look
something
into it.
to consider.
If you can't find a job here, don't feel like you have to stay here, I guess is the message.
That's a good one.
And if the government officials or anybody listening has a problem with that, then do something about it and create the conditions for employers to hire. But we're going into a recession. We're in one now. The government just hasn't acknowledged it. I think there's going to be a lot more people losing their jobs, and they're going to be making a run for the border too.
Oh, scary times. Alex said, hey, Scott, I need to say this. Canada is effed.
Oh.
Yeah, what the hell is Tim Houston in Nova Scotia thinking? Is this a communist? How do you say that?
Communist.
Word? Thank you. At its finest or what? Can't enjoy the outdoors because he'll fine you $25,000. Not that it would stand up in comparison at all, but the guy needs to go. I hope Scotians see this and say enough's enough. We're getting closer and closer to a civil war. I see it every day. People are pissed.
People are pissed. You know what this reminds me of now is very similar to how people were feeling last year. Last year around this time when Justin Trudeau was the prime minister and there was no reason to think he was going to leave that position anytime soon, people were angry, visibly angry. Then things calmed down a little bit once Carney took over. And again, Carney hasn't really done anything bad or good. But again, he hasn't done anything bad. So that I'm aware of anyway. Mm-hmm. I think people gave Carney a shot. And I think that not getting a deal done by the deadline with the Americans was a catalyst. I think a lot of people have now said, wait a second, this is not what we signed up for. We're right back to where we were a year ago, and they're mad. Is it going to be a civil war? No, I really don't think it will be. Not in Canada anyway. I could see it happen in America, but not in Canada. We're not going to have a civil war. We're still a civil society, and for the most part, we Canadians have to band together because it seems like our leaders don't care about us. He mentioned Tim Houston. When are Scotians going to get it together? I don't know. Like, my audience on the East Coast has grown exponentially in the last 2 to 3 weeks since I've been talking about Tim Houston and the other provinces that have invoked these bans on walking in the woods. Is it communist? No, it's not communist. I don't think it is anyway. But I get the frustration. I totally do. Nova Scotia, when are you going to wake up? When are you going to look at your premier and say, what the hell are we doing with this guy? Unfortunately, this position that he's announced has been a wedge. Some people hate it, like this DMer right here clearly hates it. There's other people, though, that when the government says we're all in this together and we got to fight, they actually take that seriously, and they're going to rally behind a premier that they might not even like, but they'll rally behind him because they think that's the patriotic thing to do. I think the patriotic thing to do is question authority. We can't assume that these people who are leading us know what they're doing. There's a lot of evidence to suggest they don't know what they're doing. This ban on walking in the woods, I don't really have a problem with it. If I'm being honest, I talked about this earlier this week. If they had come to the people and said, listen, we have a problem right now. We're not quite sure what the scope of it is, where these fires are coming from, or how many more are going to start for a very limited time, a couple of days. Please stay out of the forest. Please stay out. Let us get our job done. And in a couple of days, we'll reconvene. And if things are looking good, we'll give you the green light to go back into the woods. If they had done that and just asked people, please don't do it, maybe even given a good common sense reason for why, they probably would have got a lot more support. But when they dug in their heels and gave us a completely BS reason for it, like your walk might start a fire, and they threatened you with a $25,000 fine if you didn't comply, that's where they went wrong here. Give the Canadian people a little bit of credit. They're not stupid. They know they're not going to start a fire walking in the forest. They know they're not going to fall and break their leg and need emergency services. And they know they're not going to walk into the forest and then out of nowhere be surrounded by a ring of fire that they can't get out of and need to be rescued from. All of the excuses we've been given are nonsense. There's a lot of conspiracy theories evolving now because this is so stupid that people are thinking there has to be another reason. Why do they not want us in the forest? Well, listen, you could ask Tim Houston that. You could ask Susan Holt that, or whatever her name is. I don't think you're getting very good leadership out there on the East Coast, my friends. I don't live there, so I guess I can't fully weigh in. I'm not a voter on the East Coast, but frankly, us here, and this is a pretty liberal province in Ontario, even we're looking at you guys saying, what the hell are you guys doing out there?
Well, when I lived out there during the election and when Houston came in and took over, people were so sick of the Liberal Party and the promises that weren't made at the time with Ian Rankin when he took over for Stephen McNeil. So then Tim Houston had the perfect opportunity to just get in there and capitalize on situations that, you know, people were unhappy with and make promises, but this is stupid. So
I think it's a bait and switch. I think that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I don't know how it happened, and I'm not intimately aware of the politics of the East Coast, but I'll say it. People thought they were electing a conservative government in Nova Scotia, and frankly, it doesn't seem like Tim Houston is even close to a conservative.
No, and just like even his policies and just the way he presents, I don't find it either. I think you'd like to believe, but I think he's in his own world. I got to be honest.
I think he's delusional enough that he thinks he could someday replace Pierre Poilievre. There's going to be a fight later on in the winter. There's going to be a fight for Pierre Poilievre's job. Poilievre, by the way, is in a by-election on Monday. He'll then have his seat back in the House of Commons, and he can resume being the leader of the opposition. But there is going to be a leadership review, and you bet your butt, Tim Houston and Doug Ford are going to come for Pierre Poilievre. They are running for prime minister. I'm just waiting. Sometime soon, like maybe before Christmas, Doug Ford is going to step down as Premier of Ontario. He's going to appoint an interim Premier, and he's going to announce he's running for the federal conservative leadership. I see it coming. I see it coming. And I think Doug's only job was to get that election in, secure a third majority government, and then he was going to walk. And I think the deal is done, and he's going to run for Pierre's job. So's Tim Houston. The thing is, Doug might actually have a shot. Tim Houston is so far out in left field, like far left field, it's not going to happen. Like whoever's advising Tim that, oh, you might win, you're crazy. And you're only going to split the vote with Ford anyway. So Tim Houston, get that crazy idea out of your head because it's not happening.
Oh my gosh, we could go on and on because I know
I like East Coast politics though.
I'm from I grew up here, but I lived out there for 15 years. I know Tim personally from plenty of interactions. Nice person, but when
is he a smart man? Because he doesn't come off smart.
He's not a good public speaker. That's the thing. You have to be if you are in this job, which I think, I may not like Pierre Poilievre in the past for his politics in certain situations. However, I could never fault him. He's a good speaker. He seems confident and knows the messaging he's trying to put out. With Doug Ford, man, you don't know what you're going to get 1 minute to the next. You could write a speech and this guy's out to lunch, but he's trying to be one with the people, but he's still not one with the people. He wants to be, but he swerves so much. And Tim Houston, he's just wants to be cool, wants to be a part of the in crowd. He probably wasn't growing up. I don't want to say it, but now he's trying to make up for it, and it's just falling flat.
Tim, if I could give you a little bit of advice, I don't know if you listen to the pod, but someone in your office definitely does. I know that. Tim, listen, stop taking your marching orders from the PMO. I get that the Prime Minister's office wants unity and they want uniformity and they want everybody swimming in the same direction, but not everything they tell you to do is something you should do. You should remember, first and foremost, you were elected by Nova Scotia Conservatives. If you, with all the craziness that you've instilled over the last couple of years, if you now want to run for the leadership of the federal Conservative Party, you better find a way to start getting in touch with the middle class, my friend, because right now that is locked up by Pierre Poilievre.
That's it. All right, Marshall, he writes, speaking of the forest fires, here's one for you regarding the wildfires. There are minerals in the ground that can't be accessed because of forest prevention. So they're lighting the forest on fire so they can access the minerals with less red tape. Keep up the good work.
I hear a lot of theories like that. There's a lot of people, and this is how conspiracy theories start. And I'm not even saying that's a conspiracy theory. I don't know one way or the other what minerals are under these forests that are on fire. If we find there's a common denominator there between all the fires that are burning, they all have a specific mineral or something underneath them, then we can call it a real conspiracy. But for now, it's a conspiracy theory. I don't know why the governments are so hell-bent on keeping people out of the forest. To threaten them with a $25,000 fine is bananas.
And they want to punish them to the fullest. That's what they were saying, Tim Houston.
And I don't have any reason to believe that this is a conspiracy. If anything, I would have thought it was like an environmental thing. They were setting forests on fire intentionally. They have been for a couple of years now because they think it helps drive home the message of climate change. And at first, it worked. But I think enough people are skeptical enough now, can watch the news and be critical of what they're seeing and realize that there's more to it than climate change caused a forest to just spontaneously combust. If that were the case, why aren't all of the forests combusting? Why is it specific ones in specific areas? Why is there all of a sudden this massive wildfire problem on the East Coast? How did that one in Muskoka, Ontario start yesterday? There's a lot of people starting these fires. Why are they doing it? I don't know. But when the government comes out with BS reasons, like you might fall and break your leg, or a ring of fire might form around you and you can't get back out of the forest, when they come up with stuff like that, they're trying too hard to keep people out of the forest, and that makes people wonder, why? What are you guys up to? Why are you so hell-bent on keeping us out of the forest? If conspiracy theories are forming, the government has no one to blame but themselves because they put up these stupid excuses and they tried real hard and dug in their heels. And that just makes people question it even more. If they would have just been honest with people, we have to get this under control. We need resources on the front lines fighting the fires. We don't want to take away any resources from the women and men that are fighting these fires and doing all the residual activities. They probably would have been fine. They probably would have gotten compliance from most people. But when they threatened those fines and gave those BS reasons, that was just fuel on the fire for conspiracy theories. And that's where they come from because the government seems like they're not being honest with people.
Well, here's another conspiracy theory. Samuel, I have a theory that there's a conspiracy to keep the people out of the woods. The lack of an end date for the restrictions is suspicious, especially since hunting season for some animals starts in September, which is only just 2 weeks away. Could this be a subtle way to stop hunters, not by taking their guns, but by preventing them from entering the woods altogether? Hope you and Anna have a great weekend. That's from Samuel. And we have one more conspiracy after that one.
Okay, so Samuel, I don't know. I doubt that this is a conspiracy to keep people out of the woods so they don't hunt. Possibly. I don't know what the actual end game is here. I don't think that they would burn down an entire forest because they don't want to go through with the plan to buy back the guns. I don't think that that's the case. But it is weird. I mean, they were very insistent. You got to stay out, stay away. Don't look at what we're doing in here. Okay, but there's got to be a reason for that. And I understand where these conspiracy theories come from.
Next one is from Carrie. Okay, the fires. To add to the list of suspicion, let me remind everyone that in April, when we still had snow, and in May, when it was actually freezing and raining every single day, they were already telling us it was going to be a bad year for forest fires in Canada. I distinctly recall noting how odd that prediction was, especially based on the climate change for forest fire trend we've been on for years now. And here we are, making international news once again because citizens are banned and fined for walking their dog in a forest because you can't make that shit up. Even my U.S. friends and family in the U.K. are posting about the mockery that is Canada. Oh, Canada.
It's embarrassing, right? I mean, I would love to be that proud, well-respected, peacekeeping nation again. You know, how do we get our reputation back? We have fallen so low that it's embarrassing. We're in the news around the world for all the wrong reasons all the time now. It's embarrassing. I can't think of another word to describe it. These forest fires, Carrie's absolutely right. Do you remember that? We went a stretch in May where it rained every day for 3 weeks. We had snow in April and May. And already back then, they were saying it's going to be a terrible wildfire season. Where was the indication for that? Like, what were you basing that on then? Or did you know that you were going to burn down a lot of forest in Canada? I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Switching gears now. This one from Anonymous. Sorry to correct you all, but jails are actually 3 or more to a cell. Today we have 85 inmates in the Brockville jail. Look it up. We should have no more than 48. They have 85. Today is just a regular day. Now we have 20 scheduled to transfer out tomorrow, but do the math. We don't have cells. We have dorms. So that means inmates are sleeping in visit and interview rooms. Lawsuits from years ago are providing inmates $5,000 checks for these conditions, and we know how long the suits are. We know how long lawsuits are, so they take a while. Do me a favor, keep talking about this. You have no idea how bad it is provincially.
So there is a corrections officer who's saying it's even worse than I thought it was. We know that there is crowding in our jails. I'm told that there's no space in the GTA jails. I've been told that if somebody gets arrested right now, they're either going to Niagara Falls, where they even have very limited availability, or they're going up to Sudbury. We can't have this. We're supposed to be cracking down on crime. We need jail space. Now, I don't think that we can just wave our magic wand, snap our fingers, and have a jail built. But there are other alternatives. I mean, are we even considering what Florida did? I'm not suggesting putting up a tent and surrounding it by alligators, but the spirit is there, the sentiment is there, a temporary jail, a mass facility that can hold people. We need to do a lot of arrests. We've got a lot of people that should have left this country, and if we catch them, we should be holding them there until the next flight out. We need to invest some money in this. Our corrections officers are overworked, probably underpaid, I strongly suspect, and they're dealing with terrible conditions. You mean to tell me that someone who's in jail is actually getting paid because we can't offer traditional jail accommodations, i.e. 2 to a room? It's 3 now, or 4 or more? They're sleeping in interview rooms? Come on. This is bad. This is really bad. We got to figure this out. It's got to get figured out, and it's got to get figured out quick. This cannot continue on like this. I want more people in jail. And if we can't put them in jail because there's no room, then we have to come up with a temporary jail. That's just all there is to it. I don't care where, but we need to build a facility that will house these people. Figure it out here, guys. Figure it out, because the people have had enough. They do not want to hear a single other story about somebody committing a crime while they're out on bail. Now, the jails is only part of that. The other reason that people are getting bail is because of the Liberals' catch and release policy. People have to be released under the least onerous conditions. They say they're going to change that in the fall, but that could be any time between September and December. I don't know if we can wait that long. Start thinking about where we can house these criminals for now, until jails can get built, more of them. I'm okay with building jails. I'll even let Doug count that towards the new home starts if he wants. It's going to be a home for somebody. Go ahead and do it. I mean, we got to get building on this stuff. I don't really like the idea of having to sink more money into our crime problem, but if we need jails, we need jails. Let's figure out how we got here. We all agreed thousands of years ago that we were going to set up a society. And in that society, if someone cannot agree to play by the rules that we've all agreed are the rules for our society, then they need to be removed from it. The bad actors need to be incarcerated until they can figure out how to get back into a societal norm. Lock them up until then. But we need jails to do that. And if our jails are that busy, to the point especially where we're compensating prisoners for the inconvenience, I give up. I mean, come on. How many more things can you waste our tax dollars on? Build the jails, put people in them, make them pay their debt to society, and let's get back on track where the good, law-abiding folks have the power, not the criminals.
Well said. Crystal, she writes, "Hello, Scott. Just listened to your episode on if you would call the police on your kid if they committed a crime."
I get messages about that particular topic all the time,
Do you?
Anna. A lot of people resonated with that one.
Yeah, well, it did with Crystal. She said, "I wouldn't, but if my kid was a repeat offender or the crimes got worse, I would, because maybe the correction is something they would need." So
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I said it on the pod. I wouldn't turn my kid in. I wouldn't do it. You know, I will deal with him the best that I can, but I've also got a good kid. If you have a kid that you just cannot control, I understand the temptation to want to just turn him over to the authorities. Or her, by the way. I don't mean him in a gender way. Sorry. I don't think that would work for me. I don't think even if he was a repeat offender, it would have to get real bad before I would turn in my own kid. But for those who do it, I respect it. For whatever your reasons are for turning in your own kid when you find out they've committed a crime, I respect it. I couldn't do it myself, but I respect it.
all right. Well, Jennifer wrote, this is about social media. "Scott, I had a good idea for a podcast topic. Scammers on Instagram, TikTok, etc. I am constantly getting people who DM me pretending to be a celebrity. I got a bit mean with one, but I even got them to admit that he was trying to scam and that he wanted my money. It's just really sad for some people who actually fall for this."
Why is that not a bigger priority? That's a great question. Why do we not prioritize that? Is it because nobody's standing in your face waving a gun? Is it because these bad actors are in other countries? I don't quite know why we haven't figured this out. The government has some good intentions when they create some of these things, but, you know, keeping scammers at bay seems to be something they cannot do. Here's a great example. They created the Do Not Call registry. Do you remember that? Do you remember adding your number to the Do Not Call registry so you'd stop getting spam phone calls?
You know what? I had forgotten about that, but yeah, I remember that topic.
I feel like all the scammers got a copy of the list and they know exactly who to call. Like, those are verified phone numbers.
Yeah.
When it comes to online scams, we should be able to figure this out. We should be prioritizing this. People are losing a lot of money because they fall for these scams, and they're getting more and more sophisticated, especially with AI entering the chat. It's only going to get worse. Why is there no priority here? Why is there no insurance that you can buy? I.e., I got a call and I thought my grandkid was in jail in Indonesia and I sent some money overseas and it turned out to be a scam. I mean, most people will look at that on its surface and say, well, that was stupid. You got scammed. But these people believe it in the minute. They didn't think they were doing anything wrong. And then when they go to the bank and say, cancel that transfer, I didn't mean to send 30 grand over to get my grandson out from an Indonesian jail. And the bank's like, tough, that's on you. Screw you. Well, that's kind of cold. A crime was committed. This person is a victim. We should be helping victims of crime and going after perpetrators of crime. It doesn't seem like anybody's actually doing that, though. We need like cyber police. That would be helpful. When you report a scam, does anybody actually investigate it? Where does that go? If I phone my local police department and say, hey, somebody is pretending to be Anna Almeida and they're saying they want money from me, should I do it? Is there anybody looking into that or asking, well, forward me the message and I'll trace it? Are we doing that even? What's going on here? We're just letting people, and unfortunately, it's mainly seniors that are falling for these scams, and they're the people who can afford to lose it the least.
Yeah, honestly, well said again, Scott. Now this is going to differ in opinion that they're looking for from you. It's from Allison. She writes, hey, Scott, I wanted your take on a non-important yet very controversial topic. There are people who are trying to boycott the new Harry Potter series. Actually, they're just trying to boycott Harry Potter altogether. People are saying that we shouldn't support J.K. Rowling because she's anti-trans and funded the movement that led to a bill being passed in the UK that trans women are not women. Personally, I find this all exhausting. I made a comment that you can like things without having their ideals. If we get into the nitty gritty of canceling absolutely everything, then people need to stop driving Volkswagen Beetles, drinking Fanta Pop, and using helicopters because those were all created by Hitler and the Nazis. My comment did not go over well, and I'm pretty sure I'm canceled on that page, but I don't really care. That's from Allison.
I never understood the left's obsession with canceling. Oh, actually, no, I do understand it. So for those who don't know, J.K. Rowling, the writer of Harry Potter, has some not controversial views. I mean, I didn't actually read whatever it was that J.K. Rowling apparently said, but this person who sent the DM is suggesting that J.K. Rowling should be canceled because J.K. suggested that trans women are not actually women. That's not a lie. It's not. There's no mistruth there. They're not biologically a woman. Okay. So what's the problem? Here's the problem. The left is so hell-bent on controlling the message. Everyone remember that. Controlling the message. That's why the mainstream media all pushes the same narrative. That's why they want everybody to go along with no dissent. They want to control the message. And if you dissent, or if you have a differing opinion, they want to cancel you. They'll come after you hard. I'm shocked they haven't come after me yet. They probably will soon. Like, the day is going to come when I have just got too many ears for them to ignore, and they'll try and cancel me too. They always do that. It's signature from the left. If they don't agree with you, they try and cancel you. Canceling J.K. Rowling? I don't think she cares. More money than she could ever spend in a lifetime. I don't think she cares. And I also don't think it's going to work because I think there's enough people out there that can look at that argument, look at JK saying a trans woman is not a woman and agree with it. And then there's more who can look at it on its surface and disagree with that sentiment or find a nuance to it. Okay, maybe they're not a biological woman, but they feel like a woman, and that's good enough. Okay, that's an argument. No problem. We can go with that. But they still don't want to cancel JK for how JK feels, especially when technically, factually, what she said is not wrong. So trying to cancel people because you disagree with them is ridiculous. You know what you do? You move on. I hear opinions all the time from people that I disagree with. I've never tried to cancel them. I haven't called for that, and I don't believe in cancel culture for people that I disagree with. But what I have done is muted them. I've blocked them because I don't want to hear that opinion. But to try and restrict anybody else from hearing that opinion, that's where this goes way too far. That's what cancel culture is, and it really has to stop. And I think by and large, it has. One of the things that has come out of Donald Trump's presidency is canceling is out. It's over. It's done. And the left is going to keep trying, but as long as people realize you've got a friend in the White House at least, and maybe some friends and neighbors in your area that agree with you and they're going to back you. Cancel culture is not nearly as bad as it was, but it's got to be eradicated completely. Canceling J.K. Rowling because you disagree with her opinion on trans people. I don't understand that at all. What's next? Where are you going to draw the line? How trivial do someone's thoughts and feelings have to be for them to be canceled? Like, stop it. If you don't like something, ignore it and move on. Don't try and restrict everybody else from hearing it. You know what I mean?
All right. Well, this is the last one for your Friday DMs. It's a fun one. It's from Pierre. Nikki writes, "Hey, Scott, if you could start a new podcast with any one of your old colleagues, Kat, Dave, Melanie, Hammer, etc., who would it be with?"
Nobody. None.
You like it on your own?
I do like my own podcast. I'll tell you, Anna, when I launched this, I had to go all in on this because I'd lost my job in broadcasting, partially because of my political views. I believe that's part of the reason that I lost my job. And I was on my own. I had to do this from scratch. And I did. And I launched it. I created a big audience, and I'm in a good spot right now. I love some of the people that I've worked with in the past, but that doesn't mean I want to bring them on and give them a seat at the table here. This is my thing, and I'm going to keep doing it the way I want it done. I have no problem being on one of their podcasts if they ever launch one. But no, this one is Scott Fox After 9 for a reason. This is mine. I created it. I'm going to keep going with it. And I really don't have any interest in doing a pod with somebody else, particularly just because there's some history there. So please don't expect to hear a Scott and Melanie podcast or anything like that. It's not going to happen. It's Scott Fox After 9 for a reason, and it's going to stay that way. Now, having said that, I don't mind bringing in guests. I'm really grateful that you come in here from time to time, Anna. And sometimes it's a little hard to present the things that I want to present without a second voice. Sometimes I need somebody to fill a little bit so that I can take a sip of my coffee because I do about an hour monologue every single day. I like the way this pod is going. I will incorporate more voices, but I have no intention of doing a pod with anybody else. Maybe as a guest, but that would be it.
Yeah, I feel like it's a great honor. I enjoy making an appearances when you want me to come on, but I very much agree. This is your baby, and it's been fun to watch it grow over the time that I've even got to know you. And I've learned so much sitting across from you. I'm always like, the deer in headlights. Yeah, oh my gosh, I never thought of it like that. Fuck, that's real good.
Well, my goal was never... I do comment on political issues. I think if you've listened to this episode or any of the other ones, you know that I obviously have opinions on politics. And I've... not as much on politics, but more on policy. And I think that we have government officials out there that are going in completely the wrong direction and contrary to the interests of the middle class. So while I do declare my bias all the time that I'm a conservative and I'm doing a political podcast, I don't even really think of it like that. I consider myself a middle class guy talking to a middle class audience. And unfortunately, none of those talking heads in Ottawa or Toronto or Halifax or St. John's or you name it, nobody's talking to the middle class, standing up for us and our issues. So if I can put these things out there, maybe even make it a little uncomfortable for the political leaders that do listen to this podcast, make them realize you're screwing your own people and it's going to cost you in the end. Maybe they'll have that sober second thought and think, well, you know what? I really do want to be popular with Carney, but I've got millions of people that are counting on me to do the right thing. I'm hoping that they'll have that sober second thought by listening to this pod. And if I can keep doing this and maintain the influence that I have, then I think it's worth every minute of my time to do it because we're trying to advance a nation. We're trying to get a middle class back to a point of prosperity. And frankly, if nobody says anything, it's not going to happen. I do think, though, that podcasters, particularly those that are similar to me, the ones that are on the right, and there's a lot of podcasts out there similar to mine. I think we've all got to get a little more organized, to be honest with you. I'm here doing my thing, and if you want me as a guest on your pod, great. If you want to be on mine, great. But I think we need to kind of swim in the same direction a little bit because right now you're really diluting the audience and it would be helpful if people could go to just a couple of different sources to get their information and commentary. But that's something the right has got to figure out. And so far they haven't. But there's definitely a lot of content out there. This pod is not going anywhere. I'm going to keep doing it every day and it will always be Scott Fox something. After 9? I mean, it's after 9 because I do it after 9, but even that could change the name. We don't know. Either way, I appreciate the DMs. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope you have a great weekend. Next week, it's another full week of After 9, and next week I will have a full Silent Date Guy update. They're going this weekend, Anna.
Oh my gosh, my heart is beating fast. I can't wait.
It's going to be fun. Have a great weekend, everybody. I will leave you with the sounds of Pat James and The Whole Truth. Hey now.
Oh,